Everyone says a bathroom model takes 2 to 6 weeks to get done on average. However, that number is useless because it only counts the days a crew is actually standing in your bathroom. Think about this. The permit alone can eat anywhere up to a week to 8 weeks if you're getting a standard permit in Chicago. And that's before anyone even shows up at the door. That's why the real clock doesn't start when the hammer swings. It starts the second you sign your estimate. And most of what delays your project happens before that hammer ever moves. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what happens week by week, including the weeks nobody warns you about, and how to shave time off of every one of them. So with that, let's get started. Week 0, you sign the estimate. That's when the real timeline starts, the moment you sign, not the moment you demo. In fact, I could even make the argument that it starts before you sign the estimate, but we'll talk about the estimate itself. This is decision time. It's common for homeowners to take 2 to 4 weeks to decide to go on an estimate. That's real time that adds to the project before you start. Now, think about another layer to that if you're buying or selling. If the project is tied to a closing date, that adds another layer to the plan. If you're looking to save time, leaning towards doing an estimate, don't sit on it. Everyone says, well, I want to wait until after I close. No, don't do that, because by the time you close, then you have to figure out moving, and then you're adding this extra layer of complexity in there. Every week spent deciding is a week added to the total before anything even starts. Leads us to the next section, permits and inspection. Most bathroom models that touch plumbing or electrical need a permit. Just a reality that you cannot control. A standard permit alone, like I mentioned, will probably run about 4 to 8 weeks. Often it's longer if there is a mistake in the application or any kind of delay along the way. On a recent job, permit approval came through at the end of July. We were so excited that we discovered that the earliest inspection slot was mid-August. 3 weeks for one inspection. Inside that same window, there goes the excitement. It's now 7 weeks between the permit and the first inspection. So it's keeping that going as you're thinking about the process of how this is going to work when you're dealing with the city. Now, I'm going to give you some real examples of how this would work. We had a project in Fulton Market, and we had asked the client twice, do we need to get a permit? We even asked the condo association, do we need a permit? You know, most of them in Fulton Market, they'll say, well, yeah, you do, or no, you don't, and they know. Well, so we got started, and then they said, oh yeah, you know what? We think you should get a permit. We'd already gotten started on the project. We had crew who had started the job, and we had to pull them off the job. We got the permit. We were okay to do that, but now we had to get those same guys back. And the problem is a lot of them had other projects that we had them working on, so it takes an extra week or two to then get them back on the job as well. However, it's not just about the permit that runs the clock. It's also materials. They run in parallel with permits. Now, the goal isn't having everything delivered the day you sign. That would be crazy. But you do want to get started on this process the day you sign. If you already know what you want, place the order right away. You don't need it delivered immediately. In fact, I would recommend not doing that immediately because it gets too much crazy. But you want to have it scheduled closer to when you actually need it. Before you order, check with your contractor that's actually the right material for the job. That's one quick confirmation that could save you any kind of mix-up you're about to hear. If you haven't decided yet, that's fine, but start working on those decisions immediately. Instead of waiting for permits to clear, this is a great time for you to figure out what materials you want to get. Go to different stores, Studio 41, Flora Decor, Home Depot, Lowe's, all those places. So here's an example of the clock running out of control and exactly the type of mix-up a quick check with your contractor can catch. A client ordered bathroom materials from an out-of-state supplier because it looked like the better deal. It looked like the exact same thing they want. And the supplier sent the wrong item. Twice. Not once, twice. It added a month and a half to the project. You add tariffs, overseas shipping, and general price swings, and it makes things a lot riskier to do that. So the fix was actually working with a local source to provide nearly identical materials at close to the same price that we got faster and pretty much at the same quality as those fancy out-of-state materials. Now, I understand you want to get the best materials possible, but the save here is start the process the week you signed so you can actually get everything delivered when you need it. and you can figure out when that will be immediately. Work with your contractor to make this happen correctly so you don't have the job slow down with materials. 2 to 4 weeks of real work. Now, once permits are approved and materials are on the job site, the actual construction moves fast and predictable. The trade sequence is roughly the same on most jobs. You have demo, HVAC, plumbing rough-in, electrical rough-in, framing, drywall, tile, then finish work like vanity, fixtures, and paint. In most cases, that's, like I said, about 2 to 6 weeks, give or take, depending upon how big your bathroom is, what's involved, if there's anything really that we have to go into that makes a difference. Now again, HVAC often goes before plumbing, especially as we get close to Chicago winters, since we want the heat when we're working. Now, electrical is sometimes done simultaneously with plumbing because it's instead of strictly after it. So there is some variations here, but this is a general idea of the timeline. Now, one wrinkle: if the work touches a shared plumbing stack, only 2 people can realistically work on it at once. The reason I bring this up, the plumbing stack, by the way, for those who don't know, is the thing where the toilet goes to the poo-poo. You can't speed that up by adding more hands, because even though you would like to be able to have that, you can't actually have different people starting from different places to do that. So the way to save time here is to have the permits and materials both fully cleared before your crew start date is locked in. That way, a crew that shows up with nothing to wait on is actually going to get you 2 to 4 weeks for that number instead of a stall job that drags on for months and you think, hey, we'll just get more people. That doesn't always work. Now, with that said, we also know the DIY. Like, let's talk about that, because a lot of people say, well, I'll just do it myself. We get that all the time. And you're doing it yourself is a different math entirely. Now, I learned this firsthand the first time I ever tiled the bathroom floor by myself. What a professional crew knocks out a day took me about a month. This was my first time, by the way. I was working out alone on weekends just because of the learning curve. A friend ended up helping me finish it. When I asked contractors, how do you guys do this? The actual technique took minutes to explain. Someone actually knew what they were doing. The takeaway: hammering time estimates from anyone without a crew and a real experience aren't reliable stand-ins for people who have a professional timeline and know what they're actually doing. That's such a key if you want a timeline. People who know what they're doing do it faster. I know that's shocking here. When you start also matters. This is the next one. The time of year makes a difference that most people expect. Summer is buyer season, which means higher demand on crews and plumbers and more delays finding one who's free if there's any changes. Once buyer season ends and kids go back to school in the fall, scheduling tends to open back up a little bit. Now, if you're trying to save and your timeline's a little bit flexible, aim to start in the fall or winter. It could shave real weeks off your start date alone because, not only are plumbers less busy, but also the city of Chicago or Highland Park or Wilmette or wherever you're doing the work is less busy as well. Here's the real timeline. Start to finish. A few weeks to decide. 4 to 8 weeks for the permit running in parallel with materials, then just 2 to 4 weeks of actual construction. The work itself isn't what stretches a bathroom model out to 8 to 12 weeks. It's the invisible weeks before demo, and now you know how to shrink every one of them, because the answer is make decisions faster and get things ready while you're waiting. That's the reality. Don't just wait for everything to happen in a row. That's not going to help you out. If you're ready to get your timeline moving, schedule a free estimate with creativesmartcontractors.com/book and schedule your free estimate today. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Andy Nathan with Creative Smart Contractors. Have a great day and a better week.